First and foremost, I want to thank the members of the graduating class for inviting me to be this year's commencement speaker. There are few honors that a college president cherishes more than receiving this type of invitation. It is especially meaningful to me today as I conclude my 44th year at GCC. Since this is your graduation, I ask a number of you what you would like me to talk about. I talked to your student trustee, Laurie Moles, and you know how serious she is. And I said, Laurie, what would you like me to talk about? And she looked at me and she said, about 20 minutes, no longer. Many of you asked me to tell you about my time and experiences at the college, and others asked me to share the roadmap I followed in my life and career. So I will share some of my story with you, but I will also tell you that I did not have a roadmap, and I never expected to have a career in higher education, and I certainly never expected to be president of a college like Genesee. Well, first, let me share some family background with you so that you might understand why my parents placed such a high value on education. My mother's parents immigrated to the United States from Russia in the latter part of the 19th century. They came through Ellis Island and later settled in Baltimore. They lived and worked in what was called a blue-collar neighborhood. My father's parents lived in Austria, and when he was only 10 years old, there was much political unrest in his town. The situation became so bad that his parents put him on a ship, alone at 10 years old, so he could come to the United States and live with an uncle. He grew up in Chicago and as a teen enlisted in the United States Army. My mom's parents were working class people, and my mom and dad were the same. They did hard work and worked long hours. However, they always expressed two deep beliefs that I will continually hear, and I now pass on to you. First, education is the key foundation for whatever you decide to do. And whatever you decide to do, try to find something that you feel is satisfying and you might have a passion for doing. I was the younger of two boys born during the Great Depression. We had some very modest resources, but I never felt poor since all of our friends lived in a similar fashion. We didn't have any central heating, but we did have a coal stove. I thought that this was how most families lived. We didn't have a great deal of money, so when I was in high school and later in college, I had the opportunity to work in a brewery during the summers, selling newspapers, sell programs at the Navy football games, work in a pharmacy, work in a post office, and best of all for me, and the best of my memories, was I was a scorecard editor in the Baltimore Orioles returned to the major leagues to play baseball in the mid-1950s. There was no pattern of planning here. We did what was necessary to get to the next day, to get to the next week, or the month. When I graduated high school, I had no idea what I wanted to do. Many of my friends were either getting the type of jobs that didn't especially appeal to me, going off to college. College seemed like the better option, and at a cost of less than $100 a semester, I enrolled at Baltimore Junior College, which is now Baltimore City Community College. I still didn't know what I wanted to do, but what I did accomplish was to make my parents very happy. Their son was going to college, and seeing them happy about this gave me a deep sense of pride and satisfaction. Graduation from Baltimore Junior College was an exciting time for my family. Mother had joined the Air Force, and now I was not only the first one in the family to go to college, but I was the first college graduate in the family. I think being the first person in the family to graduate college may be a similar story You have family, parents, children who are just as proud of you today as my parents were to be 54 years ago. Now I was focusing on a plan. Sad to say, the answer was still not a very clear plan. I was now looking at my options, and I was fortunate. I had done well academically at BJC and was also playing on basketball and tennis teams. As a result, I received some scholarship offers, and since I had friends that were going to the University of Maryland, and Maryland was willing to transfer all of my credits and accept me in the third year as a business major, I enthusiastically accepted the offer. I was now 20 and I still lacked a clear plan for the future. 2 years later, I was graduating from the university with much excitement and the pleasure of once again seeing my parents so excited and proud at that moment. I think they enjoyed the successful completion of my college work so much because it was something they talked about my entire life. Now here's where circumstances, and you'll find that in life sometimes your best plans get interrupted by circumstances, impacted on my future far more than any detailed planning on my part. The draft was in effect at the time I graduated, and I had been serving in the Army Reserves, and at some point I had to go into the Army for 6 months of active Army duty. But they couldn't tell me when I would be called to serve. I like working with people, so while waiting for the call to active duty, because I now had a degree in hand, I was offered a temporary job as a social service worker in the children's division of what was then called the Batavia Campus. I enjoyed the work I was doing there, especially working with children and their families. And after taking a leave from my job to do my 6 months of active Army duty, I returned to my work at the welfare department. I wanted to do more than I had been doing. That I wanted to be more than just a caseworker, but found that to have any position that could have real impact in trying to change basic things and operations of the department, you needed to have your master's of social work degree, and then I studied. Now a plan was starting to form. I enrolled in graduate school and earned my MSW from the University of Pennsylvania. Graduation and ceremonies once again brought great joy to my parents and my wife, Roz, who I had married a year earlier. With my new degree, I was now qualified to assume the position with increased responsibility. I was asked to serve as the department's director of juvenile services. With my new responsibilities, I was being urged to go to law school and take at least some law courses if I really wanted to have a larger impact in helping the children and families that were moving through the social service and court system. My parents always said too much education will never harm you, but too little could possibly limit your opportunities. And in my case, they were right again. I started to take law courses in the evening while maintaining my job in the day, and then chance stepped in again. On a train ride to a meeting in Philadelphia, I met up with a person that was the dean of students at Bowling Junior College when I went there. And she introduced me to a friend who was director of the Bowling Junior College evening division. He said if I ever got interested, he had a part-time teaching opening for someone to teach introductory sociology courses. I took him up on the offer and is now teaching an evening sociology course, taking evening courses at the University of Baltimore Law School, and doing my degree, my work as director of juvenile court services. As many of you graduates will know and can understand my feeling, my wife's patience and tolerance in agreeing to allow me to do all these things really is what made it all possible. As a side note, the person that I met on the train who hired me to do my first teaching assignment was Dr. Alfred C. O'Connell, who later became the first president of Genesee Community College. I taught for several years at BJC and one day received a call from Dr. O'Connell asking if I would consider changing my career direction and joining him at his new college in Harford County, Maryland, where he was just appointed president. He offered me a position as director of admissions and placement. We now had two young children, and it was going to be a serious career move. But I accepted the job. I finished my law school classes and graduated from law school. I was contemplating either a law career or continuing to work in the student service area. I later earned my master's and doctorate in higher education from Columbia University. Now I had a career plan, right? Well, not exactly. The option of my future plans broadened when Dr. O'Connell took a new position as the first president of Genesee Community College and asked me to join him as Genesee's first team of students. I now have 3 principals that never worked in New York and no idea where Batavia, New York is located. And just as a side note, for you who are outside the area, when my wife told her family and friends that we were moving to Batavia, New York, they wanted to know why we were moving out of the country. Dr. O'Connell was a master salesperson, and he convinced myself and Maz that a chance to be part of starting a new college was an opportunity of a lifetime. He was correct about that. A year later, after Genesee had started operations, Dr. O'Connell asked me to accept the position of Chief Academic Officer and Executive Dean. It was an exciting time. 7 years later, in 1975, when the president resigned to take another position, the board selected me to be the president of Genesee Community College. All of the things that were seemingly not related, such as the work experience that I had in the past, my educational background, had now come together. I will say that things do happen as unplanned. My assistant told me that sometimes I wander off and tell stories that will make my presentation longer. In putting this together, I couldn't help but recall that we were in the process, the board was in the process in 1975 of interviewing candidates for the presidency. And I was all ready to come on a Monday. And on a Saturday, there was a large snowstorm, and about 9 o'clock, the phone rang, and the chairman of the board of trustees called and asked if I could switch my appointment from Monday to come right in now because the person that was supposed to come in was snowed out. I can't tell you how I felt in terms of my plans to use Sunday and prepare for the interview. We're now all sort of down the drain. I came in, and I think what they wanted most, they wanted to know if I knew how to work the coffee machine. Make fresh coffee. I was able to do that. We had the interview, and as I said before, was selected as president. Now, standing up here today, 36 years later, I can honestly say that this event was truly beyond any of my expectations that I had for myself when I took my first job in college. My deepest hope is that each of you will always be ready to reach beyond the initial goals and expectations that you have established for yourself. You are part of a college that has succeeded in growing beyond the wildest expectations of its founders. Succeeding beyond expectations is really, truly part of the college heritage. Talk about going well beyond expectations. Look at the history of the college. Almost no one except committed citizen volunteers thought Genesee would approve funding for a college or that it would be a success. When I moved here in 1967, my first office was in the condemned urban renewal building in the former liquor store. I was so excited about recruiting students for that first class, but my expectations were very modest. When we converted a former discount store into our first college campus building, my expectations were still modest, but I was getting excited. When we opened our doors for the first time in September 1967, and 378 full-time students and 217 part-time students enrolled for that first semester. At that point, my excitement and expectations expectations began to grow. In those first few years, some of my friends in higher education, and even in the State University Central Office, told me in confidence that they had no expectations that this new college would generate enough students and financial support to succeed. That's what the experts said. My expectations kept growing when I first graduated class of 78 students in 1969 with the approval of funding for our new campus, new programs, and enrollment growth of students enrolled from countries from around the world. That makes us today the 16th largest SUNY community college in terms of size. The other thing I'm very proud of is that today's graduating class is made up of citizens of 19 different countries from around the world. And that's the flags representing those 19 students are hanging behind me. The awards and recognition that our faculty, staff, and students have earned nationally, statewide, and locally exceeded the expectations of even the most enthusiastic college supporters. All of the things that many more were beyond the expectations of all, but a few true believers. As I said, my selection as president in 1975 and my inauguration were way beyond the early expectations that I had for myself when I became involved in community politics. For my parents, it was once again a confirmation that a good education foundation can help take you to the top of your profession. It was almost also a time that my wife and 4 children could enjoy. I only regret that my wife Roz, who passed away several years ago, was not here to enjoy all of the accolades that her unselfish support of me and the college helped to generate. I also wish we were able to have space to bring in the almost 22,900 graduates together to hear about how they plan to use their Genesee education as a foundation for their lives. Yes, I said almost 23,000 graduates. And this year you were part of the largest graduating class in the history of the college, totaling almost 900 graduates. While I will leave my job as president of Genesee Community College, I can assure you that I will find my way back to the income tables in the student union. My memories of you, the students, will never fade, nor will the memories of the 39 board members I have worked with, or of the hundreds of faculty and staff that helped build this college. But when everything is said and done, it is you, the graduating class today, and your predecessors that have made life for myself and the others that work with you so enjoyable. I can only hope that your education will serve as a foundation for helping you succeed in life, going into a field of work that you find enjoyable, and working at something that not only earns you a living, but sometimes something you enjoy and have a passion for doing. Remember, your graduation today from GCC, like my graduation from Walden Junior College 50 years ago, should be looked upon not as the end of your formal education, but merely as a foundation on which to build your future careers, as many of you will do. And how do I know that? Because my mom told me the same thing 54 years ago. And she reminded me of that on the evening of my inauguration. Very subtly, and only as a mother to do it, I said, "Yes, Mom, you were right." Each of you has good reason to take pride in your accomplishments today. Many of you have met or exceeded your own expectations, and thus you have a special reason to celebrate. May this day be the beginning of the fulfillment of great expectations that you have for yourself and that we have for each of you. I wish each of you much success and happiness. And I thank you again for giving me the privilege of speaking to you today and allowing allowing me to share some of